Hey y'all, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be going over primitive variable types, and hopefully we can finally learn what int, double, and all of those other things meant in the previous slides. So, primitive variable types. Now, the thing to remember about a primitive variable is that a primitive variable stores the actual value. Okay, keep that in mind. This is the takeaway. A primitive variable stores the actual value. So, for example, on the left side should be something familiar from the past two videos. We declare number as an int type, and we assign it the value of 5. So then on the right side, we have our box, and it's labeled number, that's the name of the box, and inside the box is the actual value of 5. So remember, a primitive variable stores the actual value. Now, here's a list of primitive variables: byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, boolean. And in the middle, you have some memory size. I'll make another video talking about memory size, bits, and all that stuff, but all you really need to know is int, double, and boolean for this class. Now, if you look at all the data types, you're going to notice they all start with a lowercase letter. That is actually the way to tell if a variable is primitive or not primitive. And we have another category for not primitive variables, and that's called an object type variable or a reference type variable. But for this PowerPoint, for this video, we're only going to be talking about primitive variables. So remember, a primitive variable stores the actual value, and to recognize one, just make sure it is lowercase. That's how you know it's primitive. Alright, so on the left-hand side, we have some code, and you can see that we have int, long, short, and byte, and notice that they are all being assigned integer numbers. Okay, integers. There's no decimals in them. Okay, and if we look here on the right side, it says what it stores: integers. Now again, we only have to know int for this one, int for integer, double for decimal, and boolean, true, false. But I do want you to understand that some variable types only store integers, and some can store decimal numbers. So now what happens if I declare a as containing int values, but I assign it a decimal number, 100.0? What kind of error do I get? Or do I get an error? What do you think? Go ahead and make a prediction, and then pause the video and go to BlueJ and try compiling this and running it. All right, how did you do? Did you get an error? If you did, what kind? Let's go ahead and take a look right now. So I'm going to go to BlueJ, and I'm going to go ahead and make a new class, and I'm going to call it int double demo. I'm going to double click. I'm going to delete everything in here for now. And you might want to add some comments right here. This is a demonstration of integer int variable holding decimal value. Author is Charles Wong. Date is the 10th of August. So 21, 22, 10, 08, 10. I like the year, month, day format personally. Now you can go ahead and copy and paste it, or you can type it if you want. And I'm going to go ahead and type that same code, int a assign 100.0. Let's see if it compiles. Oh, okay. So we get a compiler error, right? Because the error popped up, it occurred when I hit the compile button. It's also called a syntax error. Okay, so remember, if the compiler catches it before I can run it, then it's a compiler or syntax error. And it says possible lossy conversion from double to int. So this is telling you, hey, if you try to put this into an int value, a decimal into an int, well, you can't really do that because int variables, which a is, right? It's declared as an int variable, can only hold integers. Now, this might not make too much sense to you right now, so I went ahead and made an analogy for you. Again, feel free to make your own analogies, but we're going to come across this volume water analogy later on. So before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about the other type, double. So a double can hold decimal values. So we declare blah as holding double values, and we assign it a 127.5. So we have our box, it's labeled blah, and we have inside our box the actual value of 127.5. Remember, a primitive variable stores the actual value. Likewise, I go ahead and create blah. It's going to hold double values, and I assign it an integer of 4. But remember, blah holds double values, and double values are decimal values. So when I create my box and I look inside of it, 4 isn't inside of it, it's actually 4.0. Okay, this is a tricky one because blah is declared as holding double values, and double values are decimal values. So the 4 becomes a 4.0 instead of blah. Now, the analogy I like to use to understand integers and decimals and which ones can go into which, well, I like to think of int values as dry food, takeout. All right, and I like to think of doubles or decimals as wet food or soup that you might take out. So if you look at the bottom left, that's a styrofoam box. You can use that to take out dry food, int values, right? But on the other hand, if you put soup into this and it sloshes around, well, chances are your car is not going to be very happy with you when you do a takeout. Double values, however, think of it as the wet soup or the soup takeout containers, all right? These are these plastic containers right here. They can hold liquids. They can hold soup pretty well. My fug goes pretty well in here. But it can also hold dry food, right? Int food, integer values. You can put rice, you can put vegetables, you can put all that stuff in here as well. So integers can go into double variables, but double variables cannot go into integer or int variables. Okay, so a double type variable can hold an integer type variable, but an integer type variable cannot hold a double type variable. To continue the analogy, a wet food container can hold dry food, but a dry food container cannot hold wet food. So we have one last one. It's called a boolean, and it is one of two values, true or false. So I create hi, that's my box, and I declare it is going to hold a boolean value, and then I assign it the value of true. So I also declare a boolean variable called by, and I assign it false. So when I print out hi, true prints out. When I print out by, false prints out. Remember, a boolean variable stores either a true or a false. That's all it can store. Alright, I hope this series of videos helped you understand what a variable is, how to declare it, how to assign it, as well as what can go into what. Alright, so I'll see you in the next video.